Hello, my friends. Long time no see. How you doing today? I just came in from a walk outside. It was freezing cold out. And so now I'm just warming up with a nice hot cup of Java. And I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I'm excited about. Pardon me. That's so good. It's cold out. It's like 0 degrees. So I went out for a short walk. I was reading as I walked. I've never really done that before that I can think of, but I was so into this new book that I got. So I'm going to share with you a couple of books that I'm going to be going over for you. The first one is called Empire of Illusion by Chris Hedges. So this guy, it says #1 national bestseller, remarkable, bracing, and highly moral is Hedges' lament for his nations, and that was written by Maclean's, a review written by Maclean's magazine, I guess. And then Chris Hedges says, winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Now this book, I'm just going to take a moment because I've got two books I want to show you that I'm going to be covering. And this book is subtitled The End of Literacy and the Triumph of Spectacle. I'm about, where am I? 152 pages in. I've got another 40 pages to go. And I should have known by the first page, the first chapter, starts with a quote from John Ralston Saul, one of the worst writers I've ever read, the atheist humanist who is overly educated and is completely inconsequential as a writer. He produces nothing of substance, in my opinion. But he drones on and on, listening to himself speak in circles, essentially. And this guy quotes him at the very beginning of his book. What this is a book, an anti-Christian book, that goes through and highlights the different areas that he calls different illusions, and he divides it into 5 parts: the illusion of literacy, the illusion of love, the illusion of wisdom, the illusion of happiness, and the illusion of America. So I'm already on the illusion of America. The illusion of literacy, he talks about the professional wrestling, how people are attracted to these World Wrestling Federation type of sports, and the absolute idiocy of these type of diversions that people are involved in, and how their intelligence has gone down to next to nothing. The second part, the illusion of love, he talks about the porn industry, very harsh descriptions that I'm not even going to go into any detail about that. The illusion of wisdom, he talks about the educational system that has gone into the sewer, in particularly in the United States. The illusion of happiness, he talks about these corporate consultants that say they can teach people how to be happy in the corporate workplace, and how the corporate workplace is essentially using cult-like mind control. And then the illusion of America, about how the decay of, the American empire. And he never neglects to take an opportunity to blame these degradations, these devolutions of society on Christianity or on religious belief. And he makes the association. I'm going to do a brief review on this book in a separate video, a very brief review, because it doesn't deserve much space as soon as I finish. Like I said, I've got about 40 pages left. But it jumped out at me, and it's funny because the synchronicity that's contained within here that references other writers that I've been in touch with recently is quite remarkable, how it dovetails into other stuff that I've written recently. Read recently. And so I'll make a short little video about this for you. It's very depressing. I don't recommend it. It's, like I said, it's very anti-Christian. It is very atheistic in its outlook, humanistic in its attitude, and which is quite remarkable, considering this guy studied apparently in seminary of some type at Harvard. So he's overly educated, just like John Ralston Saul, which makes him ineffectual and really not useful for anything. But however, I mean, it is insightful and it is well written and it's easy to read. So he has that advantage over Saul, who is not easy to read. This guy, at least you can get through it without too much difficulty. So I'll do a separate video on that. And this one I'm going to do, I think I'll try and do maybe a series of videos. This one I'm very excited about. I want to share with you. It's called The Money Mafia, A World in Crisis by Paul Hellyer. And I want to just share with you the first paragraph of this book. Now consider, Paul Hellyer, this guy, I found this. I actually took it out from a library. So I didn't buy this book. I wish I could say the same about The Empire of Illusion by Hedges. But anyway, I took this out of a library. I went down to the local little library, a beautiful little spot, and that I've never been to before because I'm in a new town now, the town of El Marais. But anyway, I found it just jumped out of the you know, it's like Star Wars when he puts his hand out and the, you know, it just came into my hand like that. I mean, almost that level. And the name, I said, oh, I know this guy, Paul Hellyer. Where did I read about him before? And I researched him and I quoted from him in a article that I did in the past about extraterrestrials, UFOs, all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, it's the same guy. Anyway, I'm going to do a series of videos on this for you because I'm so excited. This is a real book. This is a real book. And I'll talk to you about who Paul Hellyer is. He's the longest serving member of the Privy Council in Canada. He was elected as a member of Parliament at 25 years of old. He served as Canada's Minister of Defense, I believe. He met multiple presidents, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter. He's, corresponded with statesmen and political leaders from across the world over many, many years, decades. And he wrote this when he was around 91 years old, 90 to 91 years old. It's his third last book that he ever wrote. He wrote about over a dozen books. And this was about the third last book, I believe, that he wrote. And a very intelligent man, very well-rounded, decades of experience in many different fields. And I'll talk to you a lot more about this in a whole separate I'm going to do a series of videos because it deserves a series of videos. But I just want to share with you the very first paragraph of this book called The Money Mafia, just to give you a snippet of what you're in for, and you're going to be excited. So the introduction starts with a quote from Abraham Lincoln, and he quotes Abraham Lincoln saying Lincoln is worried about corruption in high places. I won't read you the whole thing because it'll take too long, but he just says, this is the first paragraph of the book. Paul Hellyer is writing, is saying, I had not intended to write this book. In 2010, when Light at the End of the Tunnel, A Survival Plan for the Human Species, his last book that he did, was published, I believed that I had said just about everything that I wanted to say. As the months passed, however, I was overwhelmed by a deluge of new information so fundamental and so frightening that I felt it simply must be in the public domain so that we can talk about it and take such action as is required. Abraham Lincoln's premonition of 1864 has risen from the ashes of time and is about to overwhelm us. A small group of very powerful people have been using the cover of globalization to undermine the powers of nation states with the ultimate goal of creating an unelected world government under their control. Just going to repeat that last part for you. A small group of very powerful people have been using the cover of globalization to undermine the powers of nation states with the ultimate goal of creating an unelected world government under their control. Written in 2014. 7 years ago. 8 years ago now. Sorry. Yeah, copyright 2014. So 8 years ago, this was written by Paul Hellyer, called The Money Mafia. An exciting, groundbreaking book. How come he didn't win the Pulitzer Prize? Well, hey, this would never have gotten published. And in fact, this will probably be hard to find someday. They're probably going to try and delete this from libraries, but I'm going to buy a copy. Even though I got this from the library, I'm going to go out and buy a copy. It's still available off Amazon, and it was independently published by a small independent press and distributed by Independent Publishers Group. So you see the difference between a book that's published by Random House Canada, the biggest publisher in Canada, and endorsed by Maclean's magazine and given all the accolades of a Pulitzer Prize. And what is the purpose of this book? To denigrate Christian thought, right? To associate Christian foundational beliefs with the decay of society. And I'll talk about that in a separate video. It's a horrible, horrible statement that is made in this book. Even though it's well written, insightful, well researched, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, and does bring to the attention the decay of current society and some of the reasons behind it. At its core, the reason it is promoted and published and given accolades is because it is trying to destroy Christian thought. Whereas this book, on the contrary, is trying to promote truth. And the writer himself has a very strong theistic belief foundation. And you see, this is hard to find. This is, you're not going to see accolades for. This is a hidden book, a sleeper, that is independently published by an independent distribution company and an independent press. And so I'm going to try and get my hands on it. Credo's Books from Waterville, Oregon is the original publisher, I believe. And Trine Day Press. So it's got it's got multiple independent publishers and distributed by an independent trade group. So there you go. I'm excited about those two books. Last thing before I go, I'll make this short. Do you notice what's behind me? I put it there temporarily. What is this? What is that? It's a concave mirror in this black, it's actually made of some type of high impact plastic. It looks like wood, but looks like a stained black wood frame, but it's actually a wooden plastic frame. And it is remarkable. It looks a lot smaller in this picture. It's actually quite large, but I'm not going to go back there and pull it out. But I'll show you that later. I found that at a thrift store. I was so excited as soon as I saw it. Do you recognize where you might? Some people say, oh, that may be from the Escher. You know, Escher would look at these surreal, illusionary images and drawings that he would make. But it's from the movie Blade Runner. Remember when he finds the image of Zora deep embedded and he's asking the computer to expand the pixels? That's what as soon as I saw it, I said, yeah. I went and tried to find something similar on Amazon, Etsy, independent selling places. You can't find something like this. You cannot find something like this. It is incredible that the little things that you can find, these little gems, the small things in life that get me so excited. I got to show it to you. Hang on. I got to show it to you. Give me a second. Give me 1 second before I go. Hang on. I got to show it to you. Got some little sculptures here. Little Christmas stuff. See that? The small things in life that get me excited sometimes. I guess I'm kind of weird like that. How much did it cost? $15. $15 at the thrift store. Price doesn't matter when you see something like that, and I'll find a spot for it, and it has some type of meaning. That synchronicity, again, when you see something that you've seen before, and it connects and it touches your heart and mind. And I saw that, oh, I would love to get that. And I showed it to the guy that was selling it. He said, oh, I saw that when it came in. He said, I would have liked to keep that myself. He said, but I said, I got too much stuff already. I said, I said, you got a good eye. And I don't know. I normally don't get excited. I'm not a shopper. I don't buy antiques. I don't, rarely I'll see something and it just kind of, like I said, jumps out at me. It just says, hey, here I am. You've been looking for me. And it gives some type of extra meaning in life, the small joys of having something that you can pass on to somebody else and say, here, this is something that I found. You can give it to the next person down the road and they might appreciate it as an heirloom, as a gift. So there you go. 3 things I'm excited about today that I wanted to share with you and quickly make this video. And how are you doing today? I blab on and on and on about all this stuff that I'm doing. I hope you're doing well. Like I said, I just got in from outside. It's about 0 degrees Celsius outside. It's about 32 Fahrenheit. And it's freezing cold. But that fresh air, oh, it feels so good to try and clear out my lungs and get my cardiopulmonary into some type of repair mode, I'm hoping. And so, yeah, it just felt good to get out. And like I said, I'm reading through these books. And I should be done in a couple of days between both of them. And some of the topics overlap slightly. But anyway, I'll be making some videos on those. And I'll share you some, hopefully I can distill them into something that's short and brief and concise so that you can get something out of it. So thank you for being with me today on this video. I hope you're able to double speed it and get through it so that the fact that I talk so slow is not bothersome to you, because now we just don't have time. We got so many voices that we want to listen to. We want to listen to this. We want to listen to that. We got 20 tabs open. And oh, I want to see what this guy has to say. I want to see what that guy has to say. I'm right there with you, my friend. I'm right there with you. We are overloaded with information. And so it's good to be able to take the time and say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of time and study. Redeem the time, we're told, right? Redeem the time. And, I'll just leave you with one last thing. I got a couple of minutes left, so I'll leave you with one last thing. The first verse out of the Gospel of Luke, what is it? The context is they were looking for him. He took off. He was 12 years old, something like that. He's gone to Egypt. He just takes off from his family. They find him, and he's teaching these guys in a synagogue or in a temple somewhere, right? And they're beside themselves. His parents, right? His parents, Joseph and Mary, they're like, what are you doing here? We were looking all over for you. And what's his first words in that particular gospel? The first words that he speaks, he says, how is it that you were looking for me? All these atheists say, I remember the quote that Richard Dawkins said in his interview with Ben Stein. Ben Stein asked him, what would you say if you met God face to face? You've had a good gig, you've gotten rich all your life, God's been so good to you, he's blessed you, you're famous, you're academic, you're intelligent, you've got everything that a man could ask for. What would you say to him and say, hey, Ben, how come you didn't believe in me? Because, and what was Richard Dawkins' answer? He said, why did you make yourself so hard to find? He actually quoted somebody else, right? He said, sir, why did you make yourself so difficult to find? Or something like that. And something in his typical pompous manner. Sorry, I don't really like Richard Dawkins. Hard to hide it. The first thing Jesus said in the Gospel of Luke, how is it that you were looking for me? How is it that you were looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? I see people today, sometimes they find themselves in a church, they're dragged in there by their relatives, or the typical one is the young person, the young man, the young woman. They're in their late teens, early 20s. They sit down in church. They've been brought there. They fold their arms across their chest and they look like, don't give me this stuff. And they don't want to listen to the preacher and they don't want to, don't give me, But in that place, in that house, if we would just pause and reflect for a moment and ask within our hearts, are you here, oh God? I went to a church the other day, and they were having a Christmas musical. They were playing some Christmas music, and it touched my heart, man. I felt the presence of God in there. I was like, wow, God loves me. God loves us. God is real. He speaks to us through this 2,000-year-old story, right? Still as powerful today as ever, man. And I just want to leave you with that one thing, that he said in that first scripture when they were looking for him. When he took off, they thought he was being rebellious and they were upset. He said, how is it that you were looking for me? See, if we reach God soon, we're all going to reach him soon. And what if he says, did you look for me when you were on the earth? Did you reach out to try and pray to me or search for me? And people will say, oh yeah, I tried to find you, but I didn't see you anywhere. What if he says to us, just a little admonition, what if he says to us, how is it that you sought me? How is it that you looked for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? If we're genuinely searching for God, do we look for him in different places, in celebrity, in money, in hope, in all these different voices? Or do we go into God's house, into the temple, into the synagogue, into the church, and look within our hearts and say, God, are you here? Can you speak to me here in your house, in your temple, in your synagogue, in your I forget the name of that place that Muslims worship in. What is it called? Frig, you know what I mean. In those places. Let me finish with the last. I gotta confess that I snuck ahead to the end of Paul Hillier's book, and I read. It's a nasty habit that I do. I often read the very last paragraph, and I did the same in this one. Let me segue. The bottom line is that we can listen to the voice of our Creator and his helpers, or we can attune our ears to the evil one and his followers. Quite a few earthlings have chosen the light and are making a real difference. They have to be joined by a tsunami of lives willing to follow God's rules instead of our own desires. That includes trying very hard to live according to the golden rule, which is universally endorsed by all the major religions. The choices we make will determine the history we are writing. That is the last paragraph from this book by Paul Hellyer. Isn't that amazing how that kind of fits together? I know I'm all over the place, but that's okay. I like being all over the place sometime, and I hope you do too. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you so much. I love you very much. I hope you're doing well. Please take good care of yourself. Please get some good fresh air. Be with those who love you. Love those who are with you. Don't get distracted. Take a moment to breathe. Get some fresh air. Walk in the woods if you can. And remember that God loves you very much. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you again really soon, okay? I'm going to be making some videos real soon. So I look forward to talking to you soon, okay? Take care of yourself. Bye-bye now. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.